Back at it again. Woman claims Waffle House in Pinson locked her out due to race. What is going on with the Waffle Houses? Now, I will say something about the Waffle Houses. Most of the Waffle Houses that I've seen that look like those Waffle Houses, the last time I seen that was not very long ago. I was actually in the South not very long ago. And most of those Waffle Houses are in places like the South or in rural, type areas. And so, I've never seen so many Waffle Houses, that is. They have steak houses and, those smoke houses where they have, the sit down, eat restaurant diners, and it's real family oriented and very Southern. And so, with that, you know what else will come next. So, some of my family members, or a majority of them, come from the South. And so, in the South, you know, and you got to know who to get involved with it. People are a little bit more fancy and they dress up things and hide things. They're clever. And in the South, they're a little, they show their racism where it's evident that's what you're dealing with. In the city, they try to hide things and dress it up and, sugarcoat and patronize, and they got those big smiles, but it's the same type of racism. It's just dressed up in the cities. So the woman claims that the Waffle House in Pinson locked her out due to her race. Now, there has been some incidences. There was one incident that happened where a young woman had been arrested, and I guess there was an altercation and she was manhandled. She didn't have any weapons. And so there's been several incidences that have happened dealing with these Waffle Houses. There was that incident where there was a shooting. And that's a little bit, I didn't really read all the details into that, but I do know that the hero happened to be a black guy. So this story is in Yahoo. And here in the US, a black woman, she alleged that she was denied entry to the Waffle House in Pinson, Alabama. There you go. On April 22nd because of her race. So the Waffle House said it was investigating the claim. Pat Warner, Director of Public Relations and External Affairs for the Waffle House, told AL.com, said that the company would take appropriately all the actions needed quickly to investigate the situation. So the employee involved should not have locked out that woman in the front door at all and should have certainly opened the door for the customer when she arrived, Warner said. So apparently there was something. We will get the facts and take appropriate action quickly. In the video, they show a video that's about 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, or less now, actually. No, it wasn't 2 minutes. It was less than 2 minutes. Actually, it was at 2:20 a.m. Jacinda Mitchell shows the front door of a 24-hour, it's supposed to be a 24-hour establishment that was locked. Meanwhile, the business appears to be continuing as normal inside. There are customers seen eating and the staff are cooking food. And so Jacinda Mitchell via Storyful. So she gives that comment. It's a very short article, but I watched the video. And mind you, you see where there are people. You can even see faintly here that there are people there sitting inside and they're eating, they're talking, and it looks like the restaurant is open. And so you have the woman, she's trying to open the door and the door is locked. And so she's trying to get their attention. And then one of the guys comes over and he does not unlock the door for her. So I will try to see if at all the video will play. But it does look to be like something that's pretty wrong with this whole scene, scenario of it all, as to why would not they open the door for this young lady. So it doesn't look to me like she made it up, because you can see very well that somebody had locked her out. And so I will try to see if I can relocate it. Sometimes these things take a little bit of time, but as I'm relocating the video, it's just so many things are happening nowadays, and you don't know which way, to go on these issues. And, it used to be where people could not see videos, they didn't know what was going on, and it was easy to brush it off and look at it or view it as, oh, it's just isolated incidences, or it's just something that is made up, when in fact, a lot of these things are happening relatively close together, and they don't happen to be made up. They happen to be very, very much true. And that's the scary part of it. You almost wanted these things to be isolated incidences, but they aren't. They're happening very close together, and it's happening to African American people, and it's happening quite often. And it seemed to be happening a lot in dealing with police issues, something that happens in the South, issues there. And there's a lot of discriminatory practices that are happening, and a lot of racism in all of this. And, there's no other thing that you can call any of this but what it is. So I will actually have to pull it up. So I did watch the video. It wasn't very long. At first, I thought it was saying that it was 2 minutes and 20 seconds long, but actually it was less than 2 minutes. It was like a minute and some seconds. The video was very quick, so it didn't last very long. If I'm not able to locate the video, just know that, these incidences we've seen over and over again, and it just seemed like they happen ever so often. And the sad part of all of this is that when you see these incidents happen, you want to say, oh, I hope it's just something that, maybe it's just, a coincidence, or it's just something that is isolated. But, the more and more we see this, the more and more we are awake about the ideals that are happening in society, that certain select groups are targeted. We have different issues that are coming out, and people have gotten to the point to where they're tired of it. They're tired of having to see this in the news, but they want to see what's going on because they want to be full aware that these incidences are happening, so that they can know what places not to go to, what places to frequent and not to frequent, what places are safe, and which places are not safe. So there's a row of different incidences here. Waffle House reopens after the shooting. So they did have a picture of the guy that was looked at as the hero. I'm going to try to put my mouse over him. It said that Waffle House shooting hero raises almost $185K for the victim. So he's deemed as a hero. That's in the shooting. Now, on the flip side, there are Waffle House incidences that are happening where people are being mistreated. Woman at Waffle House, Sarah Land Waffle House incident. So there's so many things happening so close together having to do with these Waffle Houses. And I can tell you this, in the South, they have a lot of them. And they're pretty popular, I suppose. They serve good food. It's like down south, wholesome. And I don't know what this is coming to. It just is really awakening a lot of people's eyes to what is really going on. I just believe that um, a lot of people used to want to think that this was, not true, and that African American people were just, we were making these things up, and it was a way to ignore the problems, ignore the issues, and not have to deal with them because they could not understand, because for two reasons: either they could not understand it because they themselves were not African American and they didn't have the same experiences, or they knew or they know that these incidences are a possibility, that they could be true, or they do know they're true, but because it doesn't really apply to them and they might be a part of the problem, they don't want to recognize it, because they basically, they as in people who demonstrate the racism and demonstrate discrimination towards African Americans, pretty much enjoy doing that because they feel on top of someone. And so this is what I've known it to be. And so anyway, I'm going to try to see if I can, locate this video. If I'm not successful, here it is. It says, video shows Black woman locked out of Waffle House. Now, I know earlier I saw this and I said, should I even talk about this? And I said, no, this one doesn't actually show a video, but the video is really short. And so I think I'm going to be savvy here. And I'm going to actually go in where they do have videos and I'm going to locate it. So because those videos come up no matter what.
I am at Waffle House in Pissy, and they have the door locked, and they have customers in here, and they're saying that they're closed. The customers are eating. They are having to be white customers only, and I am an African American, and they won't. But he's in there cooking, but they're closed. And the young lady that's walking down there will not open the door, and they have people that they're serving, but they're telling me that they're closed. Hey man, get the out of her face. EJ, get the car. EJ, hey, we're pissing.
Okay, so the video stopped really short. It was under a minute. So, it actually was very much under, it didn't last that long at all. So that's exactly what I saw. And so it looked like she was worried that something was going to happen to her. And it looked to me that this woman, they on purpose did not want her to come into the Waffle House. And it's sad, but it's true. So let me see here. I'm looking at a few of the comments. They knew she wasn't going to leave a tip. Now that's pretty mean. So this goes to show you the mentality of what people, how they view a situation if it isn't happening to them or people that look like them. Certain people should be locked out of every restaurant. Certain people should be locked out of every restaurant in America. Okay, so these are the comments that people are leaving. It's called closing time. Now, this person is extremely wrong because there are people who were sitting You see how people are? People were sitting inside the restaurant eating. It was a 24-hour restaurant in Alabama. It was not closing time. I do not go inside and eat at Waffle Houses in the city or town anywhere. I am leery of all people in there. Okay. And did she really need to say she was an African American? So these are people that are very hateful and very mean. So this is the way people treat African American people. And all these individuals, they know they do this and they enjoy doing this because they have nothing but hatred and racism and evil in their heart. All of the hatred and racism is trickling down from Trump and his stupid thugs. That's a comment that somebody left. And that's probably the most honest comment that I have ever read on this thread right here. Because I have to be honest and say that I believe that a lot of people feel now that as though they're emboldened to be this way. And that is the reason why we're seeing all these incidences happen so close together and so rapidly and to a select group of individuals. Now, I will give not only just what that commenter said, but I will give my opinion that I just gave and add on to it that I do believe that ever since that election of Donald Trump, that whole campaign, the way people were acting, how they were treating individuals, despite what Kanye West is saying, that he's a dragon and him and Donald Trump are best buddies, that I believe certain individuals are targeted. The only reason why I believe Kanye West is saying what he's saying is because he's not in a situation where he's in a smaller setting, or he's, he doesn't have any money, and he's treated another type of way. And so I have mentioned this in previous videos that when you acquire money as an African American or as any other race of American, people tend to treat you a little bit differently because of the fact that you have money. But when you don't have a lot of money, you're treated a whole nother way. And so, of course, now it depends. Now that we saw what happened with the case with Bill Cosby, depending on the level of what you think you're getting away with. I would have to stress that, because now, just because you have money as an African American doesn't mean that you can't be dealt with if something goes wrong. If somebody gets pissed off, if they feel you wronged them, if you've been doing some dipping and dabbing or doing something you shouldn't be doing, at a place, the wrong place at the wrong time, or with the wrong type of individuals, or you're with somebody who maybe they're not feeling you, but you said something, you touched them, or you did something, and they can have you prosecuted. So just because you have money doesn't safeguard you as an African American. And we're now seeing this. And so to all those ones that have been the mouthpiece on CNN, and they've been on these news outlets, and they've been, putting down the African American community and feeling as though they're winning brownie points, your day is coming. It's a matter of time. It's only a matter of time when your day is coming, because a lot of those people that were up there and they were on the podium, they were giving them a platform to speak, and they were speaking down on people that look like them. Just because you don't have any money and no status, you're not up there, they would look down on those individuals. We have some people that have done that, and now they either gotten fired, they've gotten demoted, or you don't hear of them. They disappear in the wind, because at the end of the day, those people are still black. You cannot talk your way out of your blackness. You cannot finagle your way out of your blackness. You cannot, whether you have money and fame and fortune. You cannot use that for too long to gain all of that credibility from a group of people who all their whole premise is white supremacy, because you do not fit in that spectrum. Because eventually, when they get through using you as the lapdog, because they did that on plantations, they had their prize slave and they let him whip other people into submission. And he himself was also a slave, but he felt like he was doing the bidding of the master. And eventually he got dealt away with. So it's not going to last. Your moment in the sun is not going to last. It will eventually come to a screeching halt. And so I really do believe, now I know a lot of people are not fans of him, but a lot of what Minister Farrakhan has said about the tactics that people have used. At first, they had people where, you had to rise to the occasion and then you acquired money. Now they let you get real wealthy and become the mouthpiece for these individuals and talk against your race of individuals and people in the community, in the Black community, and talk down to them until you get to a point to where something goes wrong, or you either disappear in the wind and they don't hear from you, or something goes bad in your life and no money can get you out of your troubles. The Black community will not have your backing because you talk down on your own race of individuals. And I've seen this happen even in the Latino community, where they've used Latin people to talk down on other Latin people. And so it happens in all of the different races, where they'll use people to say things that will pretty much to embarrass you, to make you feel like it's something wrong with you and your people, like you have problems. And then there's sometimes they'll use race as a pawn in political debates and issues so that they can get people to vote certain ways or to believe certain ways or to come up with crazy ideologies, like the gun debate. That's been an issue. And, you know, it's kind of middle of the road for me. Now, I'm not a big fan of too many people, but two, on the other hand, when it comes to the gun issue, I really think it's foolish to disarm people, because you don't know what is going to happen in the future if we're going to have some kind of problem where people need to be armed so they can protect themselves. And I did mention that in a video some time ago, that during the Hurricane Katrina, there were people that lived on higher ground. And I had a friend that lived in New Orleans. And she said that people were so desperate, they were they were looting, but it wasn't looting because they just wanted to steal. They were looting for survival. And when you're a human and you're in survival mode during a natural disaster, you are not thinking about the safety of necessarily others. You're thinking about yourself, maybe your children. And so you might do things that you normally wouldn't do because you're in a state of emergency. You're in a state of survival, fight and flight. And so you might hurt somebody, or you might do something drastic or something you wouldn't normally do when you're in the comfort of, your neighborhood. Everything is normal. There's no natural disaster, and people get desperate. And so they may do something where it requires that people be armed and be able to defend themselves. And so, you don't know, people, maybe on the loose. They might have had a record. They could be a pedophile. They could be a rapist, a murderer. And they figured there's a natural disaster. You know, no police is coming to help these people. So let me go on over here and do crime or do whatever it is. And so if you don't have any weapon to defend yourself, then it's open season. And so where's the logic? You know, people are not really thinking clear about this. You don't want people who have mental issues to handle firearms. People that are at a shooting range, they're not shooting people, they're practicing, they're shooting at, you know, uh, in a safe zone. They're not shooting individuals and people. They're not out looking to shoot up schools. They're not looking to shoot up, churches and what have you. They're in their right mind. They're competent and they don't have any mental issues. Yeah, maybe they know how to use a firearm, but they'll only use it in the event that they need to. When there's like I said, a natural disaster and they feel like they have to defend themselves and ward off criminals. And, that could possibly happen. Maybe some people say, well, that doesn't always happen, but you never know when it will. Hurricane Katrina happened. And so my friend, she told me that people were trying to go to the higher ground and they were breaking in houses and homes of people and pretty much attacking people, trying to take people's food and everything like that and fighting people. And she said the only reason that they did not come inside and they didn't dare to come in and attack them is because they had firearms. Nobody wants to get shot. So I use that as the talking piece. But this Waffle House thing, it's just gotten out of control. It seems like now, in the South, you got these incidences at the Waffle House. But I'm not surprised because the South is very prevalent. Yeah, I remember one time when I first had went out there, and it was in years that I had went, that even though this was before they took the Confederate flag down in some of the monuments and the statues, there were black people sitting on one side and white people sitting on another side. And this was in a Denny's diner. And, they do have interracial coupling, but, it's like if you don't mess with others, they won't mess with you. And if people know you in the town, because some of the towns are small, people call you on first name basis. And I noticed that where my mother was staying, there were a lot of either Hispanics or black people that lived in the same little area. But most of the, if you've seen white people, they were, they didn't have as much money, but they lived amongst people and they were a little friendlier. But if you went outside, in like what looked like more like a city-ish part, like I'm using South Carolina, Greenville seemed more like the city-ish, a little more upscale to me. They're upscale. Columbia and I think Greenville seemed more fancier. And the houses were bigger. You could tell people had more money. And I just could feel it. You could see it. It was very evident. And then when you get to the smaller communities, the houses are a little smaller. It's a little more, it's not as much space. They might have yard space, but what I did notice in the South is like the difference out here, like in California, all the fast food restaurants, you see a lot of Hispanics working there. Well, in the South, all the fast food restaurants seem like there were more either whites or black working, like McDonald's jobs, things like that. And so I noticed that was a big spin because I was like, ooh, look at all these black people. They were all working at Walmart. And Walmart seemed to be the biggest thing out in the South. And the Waffle House. The Waffle House. I was like, there's another Waffle House. There's another Waffle House. There's another Waffle House. And so that seems to be a big thing in the South is the Walmarts and the Waffle Houses and the steak houses. And they had taverns. I thought that was just something you read in a book, but their bars are like called taverns. So it's very southern. And they did have, white people out there who were very friendly, and you just got to know your place. They know, and they knew I was from out of town because I didn't have the southern slang. I didn't have that southern dialect or accent, but I understood what they said, because of people in my family that talk that way. And, but apparently the Waffle House is having some issues in the South. But I don't know. I guess here in the city, anything close to the Waffle House houses out here in the cities to me was like IHOP and Denny's Diner, and I call it the diner, and anything like a steakhouse, maybe Outback and Coco's. You know, you have we had a Norms. I don't know how many of those. We used to have a long time back Bob's Big Boys, but this right here, this poor woman, I don't know what to say, but it does look like, looking at it, that something is going on with these Waffle Houses. And so as I'm looking and I'm talking at the same time, I see in the corner, it says the police defend arrest of a Black woman at the Waffle House. And that was the other incident that happened at the Waffle House previous to this incident by this woman being locked out. So I guess the Waffle House people said, it's so many incidences happen with Black folks and Waffle House, we're just going to lock her out so there won't be no incident. But when in fact, by them locking her out, they're creating a disturbance by not allowing her as a customer to freely go in and have, purchase, whatever it is she was trying to purchase or whatever she was trying to do, be a customer, paying customer. It did look very much like a discrimination to me. And everybody in there, to me, from what I was looking at in the video, they all were white people. And so I'm not surprised. So, and it's in the South, so it's no biggie. I'm not surprised whatsoever. But anyway, with that being said, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening.